This episode is brought to you by Trailer Park Yard Games, where over 28 games are delivered directly to your party. We park the trailer, you party.
Of all the things, just to not remember you were working.
Speaking of funny excuses, I asked my niece just recently, like last week, she's sitting on the counter and there's something like a paper towel right next to her. And I said, hey, can you hand me that paper towel? And she goes, I would, but my hands are in my pockets. And I'm like, well, that's good. What?
I've seen people do that where they're like, oh, my hands are full.
I wish I could use that excuse for things like, I would, but my hands.
But girls have to have more pockets.
They're in these pockets. Yeah.
That's another. We need a whole podcast on why girls don't have pockets in their clothes.
No, we don't need a podcast on dresses and pockets.
I think that's something that needs to be addressed by the judicial system. I don't mean to talk politics, but we need to talk pockets.
Yeah.
So.
Let's level up on that.
Okay.
So
Let's have a chat, talk this and that with PB and Jaisy.
Well, welcome to the PB and Jaisy podcast.
Hey.
I'm Bill Stedham,
Hi,
and
Bill.
to my right,
I'm Sarah Paget. I'm the pea in the sandwich. People ask all the time.
They do.
The
And-
Paget.
yes.
yeah. So, and to
Hey
Sarah's
guys,
right.
I'm Jaisy. Nice to be here. I'm the Jaisy in the sandwich.
It'd be weird if you weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's how we got the PB and Jaisy podcast show, right?
Yeah.
So very,
That's right.
very interesting. Our guest today, if we look in the dictionary, which I did right before we came on, I picked up an old-fashioned dictionary.
I think you're lying.
No, I'm telling the truth. And in the dictionary, next to the word successful entrepreneur
Okay.
was the picture of our guest. And let me just tell you just a little bit about our guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself. A fantastic businesswoman, an excellent member of our community, owns multiple businesses in multiple states, is the only one that I know ever in my entire life that's the wife of a carny, and
stayed
is
married,
also a carny herself.
Stayed married to him.
Stopped moving from her new house today to come and be with us.
Just got back from Europe.
Yeah.
Travels the world.
Yep.
Misty, tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Wow. I mean, you guys made me sound like a superhero.
You are.
I think I'll
You
just
are.
stay here all
Well,
day. My name is Misti Kastl. I do own multiple businesses. I'm partner in multiple businesses. And I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, and I have the honor of working with Misty, and I can tell you that if she wasn't like flying in from Europe and selling and buying a house and, mothering 2 children and helping in-laws and, fill in the blank, she would go crazy. Because when it is slow, she's like, well, what am I going to do now? Like, what?
You need the juggling of plates to.
Yeah.
Do you think that's
Juggling is
true?
That's
definitely-
your normal.
That's actually, I think, the job title I like best is I'm just a human juggler.
Human juggler?
Yeah,
Well,
human juggler.
tell us a little bit about what you're juggling. So, we talked about multiple businesses and everything, but what are we talking about?
Well, we started, my friend and I, right out of college, started a wedding and event planning company in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I was working for Budweiser at the time, and she was just home from college, and we liked throwing parties. So really, it all started around Bear Keg.
Awesome.
But
All good things start,
Yeah.
right?
The best ideas
all
come
good
from
stories
a
start that way. And we grew that into a great business, and that kind of grew into opening sports bars and grills, which we own 2 of now. So we have 3 businesses in New Mexico that we run together. And then, my husband transferred to Dallas, and in Dallas, my husband and I have grown 2 more companies, and now I'm selling real estate on the side. So it's not really on the side anymore. I thought it was going to be on the
It's
side.
taken
It's
over.
really not. And I love that. And we're investors, and we flip houses, and we do run a carnivals, and
So, and I heard you say 2 restaurants. So tell us about 2 restaurants during COVID.
that was really, wow. Yeah, we woke up one day and every facet of income we had stopped, like immediately, because the restaurants is entertainment, the wedding and big conferences and
They weren't
concerts
even
and all
letting it-
those,
yeah.
those were over. Carnival stopped. And so we kind of had to wake up and say, okay, what are we going to do now? We have 140 employees that can't just go home. They can't stay home. They don't have any income. So we kind of just switched gears. We worked really, really hard with all the government assistance programs and grants, and we switched gears, which I really believe in my heart saved all of our businesses to how do we serve the community? Because I have all these kids that need
hope y'all
something
heard
to
that.
do. They need something to do. And I'll figure out a way to pay them. I'll figure out a way, Marcy's my business partner. We will figure out a way to make sure that they can pay their rent. And we raise money. We use grants. We actually raised over $3 million in the year of COVID to keep everybody employed.
Wow.
And we did that. That's all we did is we served the community. We took the income, instead of them serving tables and cooking on the line, they went out and fixed fences and they rebuilt porches, and whatever the community needed is what we did.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So let me ask a question. I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to put an emphasis on it. You went through COVID, 140 employees, multiple businesses, and I believe the correct answer, and if I'm wrong, let me know, you didn't lay a single person off, did you?
We didn't.
And
That's awesome.
you're in the business where it's entertainment, you're making food, you're running carnivals, you're doing weddings. It's all shut down. There's no income coming in. So you've got to raise the money, you've got to do the grants, you've got to do everything you can to keep 140 families employed and alive.
No pressure.
Well, it was a reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah,
it really
for
was.
sure.
So,
What was going through your head before, or are you the type of person where it's like, okay, this is what's going on, let's go ahead and get into plan? Or was there a moment where you were just like, well, okay, I'm just gonna take a day, just sit back for a minute? Or what was your thought process? How did you move forward?
Robbie, and my husband Robbie, Marcy and I, we've always worked as a team. The last 25 years, we've always worked as a unit, and none of us sit still at all.
But you probably got more stressed when she said, "Do you want to take a minute?" than to say like,
"Oh
okay,
yeah, a minute is very scary." If I have 30 seconds in my day, it's filled with something. Yeah.
So, I was having a discussion with somebody not too long ago on retirement, and we were looking at risk categories and whether we were risk adverse or we enjoyed risk or whatever. I'm going to guess you're not really risk adverse. Am I correct?
When we were younger, we always said the only reason we were successful is because we were a little bit arrogant and way ignorant.
So I think I met you.
That's the trick.
Yeah. Speaking of risk, I think I met you during COVID.
Yes.
When you decide, okay, I've got all this going on, so I'm just going to go ahead and get my real estate license, move to Texas, start a new career, and I'm going to be a realtor on top of everything else. So am I correct on that? That takes a little bit of risk.
I used COVID, on my downtime with COVID.
Yeah.
I think Marcy, Robbie, and I were the only ones that worked harder during COVID than we did before COVID. But I did decide to get my license during COVID as kind of a backup plan. Just putting everything in one basket, we didn't realize that we had done that. Every avenue of our income was entertainment. Right. And other than our investment properties. And we really, really enjoy the investment part of it, of what we do, and the flipping of the houses and putting love back into properties and finding new families for them. So I just was like, well, why not?
That's fantastic.
It's just one more level to that part of the New Kastl Properties Company.
What's funny is at first, whenever you first came into our office and stuff like that, I thought that it was different people. Legit, I thought it was different people because we were trying to do something like make a sign, and Sarah was like, oh yeah, Misty that's on my team, she can do this or whatever. And so she was like, I'll ask her. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then like the next day or something like that, Jeff was like, oh yeah, Misty's gonna flip this property. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then like a couple of days later, my husband had done a shoot for Shine Academy, and he was like, oh yeah, it was Jeff, and there was this girl Misty there. And I was like, oh, okay.
How many Mistys are
How
there?
many Mistys are in our office? This is crazy. Like she's just all over the place. But you're somehow just like, I don't know, you have a secret machine that's just cloning you or something.
Oh, that's fine.
Where
It's all
your
my different
bandwidth is
personalities
just,
in my head.
You've got a bandwidth that's just remarkable.
Oh,
Well,
thank you.
and this time of year, and really just this time in our lifetime, interest rates are going up. So you talked a little bit about flipping houses, and there's a lot of people out there that are scared of investing, scared of buying, scared of selling. So talk a little bit about that, because you seem to be doing things when they're at their scariest for other people, but you dive right in. So talk about how that investment process has worked for you, even during what some people call a scary market.
Yeah, it's funny because if it was really scary, I wouldn't have bought a house. I wouldn't be moving. I wouldn't be selling my house right now. It's all relative. We talk in sales meetings, and I probably quoting Bill badly, but quoting him is 10 years ago interest rates were what they were, and 20 years ago they were even higher, and really the market's leveling out. and it's not as scary as people think it is.
Right. Amen.
Yeah,
I agree.
And
Yeah.
we're selling houses at record speed, but we're also listing them.
Well,
So
if
I
you
really
ever
don't
have
see
the
it.
opportunity to buy one of Misty's houses, she's not the investor that lipstick on a pig. Like she's like, she treats it like she's gonna live in it. Because we've seen a lot of properties you go in and you're like, okay, they have new carpet, but their AC's from 1940. You know?
Or you get the inspection done and it's like, what?
Yeah.
You just like covered this up. You covered this crack up with a painting. This
Well,
is nice.
so not Misty. Misty is very, very good at figuring out what needs to be done and keeping the integrity of the house and what people are looking for today. And everything that you've listed has gone multiple offers and super quick. So
Wow.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun. I really. We'd say we put the love back in the house so another chapter could happen, because that's what it is. I mean, our very first house was all my favorite, probably because it was our first. But we bought it from a missionary couple who had lived there for 30 years and raised their family, and you could see the love of the years in the house. And I was like, okay, well, if we just modernized it, it could have a whole nother life in the next 30 years. So we try to make sure that it's ready for the next family.
You were so
to live
nervous
in.
about that one.
I really was.
Sure? I'm like, it is beautiful. Like, you don't understand what most investors do to properties versus what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there's always, if you're looking to invest, there's always going to be some reason to scare you or a reason to wait. Like we were talking earlier about interest rates, and some people are getting scared about it because they've gone up. But I remember when interest rates were in the 2s and 3s, and people were like, "Oh, I want to wait. I think they're going to go lower." And you're like, "What? That doesn't make sense." But I think if you're looking for a reason to wait, there's going to be a reason to wait. Yeah.
Well, and I heard you say something earlier. You said, you didn't know what to do, so you just started serving the community. And I've been reading a book lately, and it's talking about stop trying to make money in what you're doing and start looking for a way to serve who you're looking to serve, or asking God to send you somebody to serve, and the rest of it will kind of come into place. So what does service look like to you? And you said servicing the community. What did that look like during COVID for you guys?
Well, most of our employees in businesses are in New Mexico, and New Mexico has a huge Native American community, and the government at the time was helping supply food rations to the reservations, and we were able to work with Cisco and some of the other larger food vendors and repackage those foods and get them to the reservations. And we worked as a team with the government, the cultural affairs, us, and then the food and the reservations and the food vendors, and that helped keep us, money coming into our pockets, but as well, it helped people get food that they needed, because reservations shut down. Like there's no in, there was no out. They really kind of were in house arrest type situations. Oh, wow. So that helped get the food to them that they needed. We also, in New Mexico, the governor is a little bit different than it is in Texas. We're not going to go political, but it was a little different. Yeah. So when we were allowed to open after months and months and months, it was outdoor dining only. Okay. Well, unfortunately, Marcy and I, we were two women in the business, didn't know what we were doing, but we like to eat outside. So we built huge patios on both of our restaurants. So we were fine. But the other community restaurants weren't. They didn't have any outdoor dining. So we... we have a charity, it's Revolutions 120. So through our nonprofit, we went out and built patios and outdoor dining for all the restaurants in town. So
Wait.
They're competition.
You went to your competitors
competition.
who you can obviously, you have a leg up on, and you're doing your business. They're not making any money. So if you're a true capitalist knucklehead, I'm a big capitalist, but if you're a knucklehead, you could have actually put them out of business. So instead, you create a nonprofit, you take money out of the nonprofit, and you go build patios on your competitors' businesses so they can reopen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a
awesome.
community event, so
That
everybody
is
has to.
amazing.
That shows
I'm
passion.
telling you what we did, but really I can't take a lot of credit for this because I was here in Texas. It was my partners and all the kids in New Mexico that did the hard work.
But you led it. You had something to do with it. You helped make that decision. I sure hope your competitors said thank you.
Oh yeah, no, it's like I said, it's very much like Mansfield. We help each other and we take care of each other. So.
That's awesome.
I wish everybody had that mindset.
Yeah.
Because
So
I don't
do
know
I.
that I would have thought to, not that I wouldn't have thought to help them, but I don't know that I would have thought to help them in that way. You know what I mean?
Unless they specifically came to me and said, "Oh, you have a patio. We need a patio." Then I'd be like, "Oh, okay, cool. We can help you in that way." But I wouldn't think
That's awesome.
Pretty great.
Well, that's amazing. We had a little flood here, and I did have a couple of our larger competitors call up and offer to help. So that was cool, but nothing. They didn't come build me an office. They didn't build me a patio to work on.
Well, and the difference too, I think a lot of times, I know if one of our competitors came to offer to do something nice, I'd be like, are they trying to recruit us?
Yeah.
Like, what are they trying to get at?
What is your real
Where's the
mission?
angle?
Like, what are you trying to do?
Exactly. Yeah. What's your angle?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we had your husband, Rob, on. And so you've mentioned that you guys work together.
You're
and stuff
still
like
married,
that.
right?
And,
We are.
Okay, yeah. So working together with your spouse, what is that like? I mean, y'all have been doing this for obviously so many years. So have y'all kind of mastered it? What are some things that y'all had to learn through the process?
And Rob is listening. I know. So be careful.
No. I mean, mastery is a really big word. I don't think we will ever master it. But we do work really well together. You know, we had to learn over time, you know, what are your strengths, what are my strengths, and how to use those to get to the end together.
I've heard you say too, like we kind of know, not knowing your place, that sounds terrible, but knowing what lane you need to be in. And,
yeah, that's a big thing. You know, we have some therapy words in our house where I'm like, well, who's driving the bus today? Because if you're driving the bus, I'm going to get in the seat. But if it's my turn to drive the bus, then you'll get in the seat and we're going to move forward. Awesome. So we take turns.
That's
Very
great.
cool. Speaking of driving a bus, I guess it's about that time of the year where you get ready for the fairs and the carnivals.
We are, yeah, we're gearing up. We've actually done more fairs this year than we ever have. So that's exciting. And Kastl Events is really growing. You know, for the first 15 years of our marriage, Rob had a corporate job, like he worked full time, and then he did all my crazy stuff on the side. And now since COVID, you know, that kind of put him into a forced, he calls it retirement. I don't. So we've expanded all of our companies. So we've done local rodeos and shows and festivals. We went down to San Angelo this year. We're about to go to Ohio in July. We'll do the North Texas Rodeo in August. Then we do the big one, which is the largest independent carnival or in the country, the Texas State Fair.
Fantastic.
Wow. So what does it look like when you start gearing up? Like what do you start thinking about, or what are things that you kind of have to put into place?
Well, the biggest one is the State Fair Texas, and it requires us to build a team of about 40 people. It's all we do are carnival games, so we're not doing the rides or the foods or anything like that. It requires very high energy outdoor salespeople. So I'm even now, it's funny, we had movers come yesterday and they loaded our trucks, and those guys are a machine. They were insanely strong and funny.
That's a job for you.
And they worked, not even kidding.
Yeah.
We had that conversation. I was like, what are y'all doing in August?
Yeah.
You know, have you ever thought about doing this? They were hilarious. They were cutting up and having a great time. So any class clown I've come across throughout the year,
Have you asked Jeff
Trying to
yet?
recruit them. Yeah.
you know what? We put Jeff in a
only a
game
matter of
last year
time.
when you guys came and did the team came and visited me last year at the fair, and I put Jeff in a game, and I was like, oh, you need
gonna have
to
to come
get
back
out
out,
because, you know.
He wasn't doing
There
good?
are children around.
Oh, Jeff. Okay, got it.
Well, and I've heard you on the phone, walking through the employment side of some of that, and I know that's a little bit of a mess, and things like drug tests and stuff like that. So tell us, how is that trying to keep people employed and keep good quality people? Because I know it's not easy for most people.
It's a very different industry. So when I talk about it, people don't quite grasp it. But it's very, it's not common that you can find somebody that's available to work for a month at a time that doesn't have another job and other commitments and things like that. So, over the years, I've developed a really good relationship with the Narcotics Anonymous group in South Dallas. And most of our employees come from that group.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually really enjoy the program. They hold each other accountable. They have rules and morals and a higher power that they all serve, and they make great employees.
That's awesome.
That's great, because then now you're also helping people that otherwise maybe not have the best track record, or they might have people that are going to look at things that they've done in their past and not want to help them move forward and put those things in the past. So you're helping your community again by extending a job to them.
Oh, that's sweet. I hope so. I mean, it's definitely a win-win, though. They work very hard, and it works out for both sides.
Wow. Now, how do you keep all this straight? Because I think I have a hard time with, one business and one, not that you have multiple husbands, I was going to say one husband, no kids, no dog. I've got a husband and a job, and it's still a lot. So how do you juggle routine that what are some tips or some people that are trying to maybe fit more into their life?
Oh, wow.
Margaritas or...
calendars are important.
Okay.
Valuing your time and your space, that's important. Boundaries are
I'm not even
important.
looking at him, but I'm sure he's
I know,
shaking
he's
his
shaking
head.
his head. I've learned a lot, actually, from both of you over the last year on setting boundaries and calendars.
Probably not what not to do for
That
me.
is so not true. So not true. You know, and it's kind of like a system. You know, everything has a system and everything has a place. And even in my home, you know, I taught the kids, we're a team. We're always a team, no matter what. And it's if we're working in the kitchen, if we're setting up a catering, it doesn't matter. We're setting up Carnival, everybody has a job. If you don't do your job, I can't do my job. So even if it's as basic as, you know, Gavin, if you don't unload the dishwasher, I can't cook dinner because Peyton has to load the dishwasher. It's the steps. So it's systems and accountability, and then keeping everybody motivated and happy to do it.
That's awesome.
Now, I said happy and teenagers in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Those don't always work, but you know, it's the concept is there.
Right.
That's a trip in and of itself. And in learning boundaries, did you learn two sentences? One that has one word in it, no, and one that has three words in it, no, thank you, which is a complete sentence.
I work on that daily.
Okay.
I think she has a hard time.
But I have
saying
gotten.
no, though.
I do have a hard time, but I have gotten much better at
But
it.
that's that servant heart, you know, it's hard. You always think through, and I think Jaysy's the same way, Bill's probably the same way. When someone asks you, your first thought is there a way for me to help? Is there a way to get it in my schedule?
Yeah.
Is there a way for me to do it? And it's just knowing when you've reached capacity, you know? So,
Well, we're in the middle of just give a real world event. We're in the office, and all of a sudden in October, our office starts flooding. We moved to a new facility, and it has signs in the parking lot that were for the previous tenant. So we had to move short notice, as y'all know. And I wanted to replace those signs. So Misty and Rob, they're in the middle of Carnival season and everything else, and the question was, can you do this and we'll pay you? And like the next day, signs showed up with Century 21 Judge Fight
I
on
think
it.
they're magic.
And and I have yet to get the invoice for those, by the way.
I think I got lost in the mail.
Well, and I know you brought up your children. You just recently had your son just graduated.
yes.
So how are you feeling about that?
You know, we're so busy. I don't think I've had the the chance to have any emotions. I'm very excited for him. He just came home last night. He's going to the University of North Texas in the fall. He's going to
Awesome.
study engineering.
Awesome.
Very proud of him. He went to orientation, which is a 2-day event. So he left Thursday and he just came back last night. And now he's loading a truck. So
and where
we
did
all
y'all?
work.
So
all
you've
the-
taught them the same thing. Like
Yeah, they
you
don't have
just
a
keep
choice.
going.
Yeah, let's go.
So and where did y'all just come back from? So he graduates and y'all went where?
Yes, so he graduated from Lake Ridge. We left, I think, a week later. We went to London for a week. We went to Glasgow for a week, and then we spent a week in Dublin. And we just got back.
Okay, so I got to ask you, the best vacation I've ever taken in my life was to Ireland,
Mine too.
and
I wanna go
loved it. How did
Yeah.
you guys like it?
Oh, it was beautiful. The people.
Those are your people.
Yeah,
Those are my people.
Fit in with the red.
My people.
Like, oh, great.
And did you travel around? Did you stay just in the Dublin area?
No, we didn't. We took a train down to the Blarney, and
I saw the video. on
yeah,
Facebook,
I hung upside down on the tower and kissed the
Yep.
stone. And I'm sorry, I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth now, but it was fun.
We did the same thing. We walked up it. I'm surprised I got my wife up there. She's afraid of heights, Ann is. So as you know, as you're going up it, there's no way down once
No.
you start going because you're literally shoved into this there's no way to get out of it. So she reluctantly got to the top and kissed the stone. So that was
My favorite memory from Ireland, I was talking to this guy who was a bartender or something, and I said, "Do you have to work tomorrow?" And he said, "No, thanks be to God." And I was like, "Can you say that again?" Like, so every time we're in church and they say, they'll say the thing, we say, "Thanks be to God." We always say it in that accent. I want to go back so bad though.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great place to go. I was talking to Mike Crow the other day, and he said, "Are you putting your name in for the trip?" And I said, "Always."
Yeah. Texan Spec shout out.
Yeah.
They give away a free Ireland vacation every year. So
Nice.
yeah.
So that's how we both went.
yeah.
And we've had other people in the office go too. So shout out Texan Spec and
Nice.
signing
Put
up
my
for
name
that.
in that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that is cool. So what's getting ready for the carnival season involved? Creating new games? Is there a new game out this year? And is there any trick in how to win it? So when I go, I can win and a stuffed animal?
Yeah.
Well, yes, but you're not going to like the answer. So in Texas, all games are a game of skill.
Right.
So if you don't have any, I can't help you.
Because a
I
game
don't
of
know if
luck
we're
is
gonna do-
gambling, right?
Right, it is gambling.
So it has to be a game of skill.
It has to be a game of skill. So even the ring toss, where it looks like it's impossible, it actually is. It is winnable. It is a game of skill. Rob is the genius behind all of the building and the designing of the games. I don't know if he has anything up his sleeve yet.
Oh, yeah?
I bet he does.
I wish that was a thing, because when the fair comes, it's such a big event, but everybody's always talking about the food. Like, okay, what's going to be the cool new thing that's going to try? And they have people come out and taste test things. I wish there was something for games where there would be like, the number one game is going to be this, or this is the newest game that's out.
Maybe you could start that on your Instagram channel.
Maybe.
You should.
Yeah.
That would be a good idea.
So I get to go look at quilting, because that's Ann's favorite. We look at butter, because,
That's
my
Ann's
wife,
favorite.
Amish and Mennonite.
Right.
We look at cows and how well they are to milk, and we look at chickens. So the only thing I want is a corny Fletcher dog and a beer, and to get out of there usually.
I love animals, so I always love seeing the animals, and there's always like a little baby calf and like the baby animals where I'm like, I just want to take you home, but I can't.
Why
They
not?
bring in a great
My husband
petting
will not
zoo.
allow it. He won't even let me get another dog.
I have some chickens if you want some.
I will take it, but
All right. Well, we need to move on to our next segment that's called
Tales from the Lockbox.
All right. And Misty actually comes to us with a tale. She was, I guess you were interviewing for a listing? Is this
I
what happened?
was.
Okay.
It was a ranch in some West Texas. I don't remember how many acres, but large. And he asked if I had any experience with mountain lions. And I said, well, no, I've seen them, at the zoo.
Yeah.
And he says, well, do you have a truck? And I said, well, yes, sir. I have a truck. My husband's, but, I can drive it.
Still.
And he says, well, do you have snake boots? And I was like, well, I can get some if I need them. I'm getting really like, huh. He says, well, what kind of shot do you put in your gun? And I was like, huh. I was like, well, you let me know what I need and we'll work it out.
Yeah.
And he says, well, honey, if you don't have boots that go up to your knees and you don't have rattlesnake shot in your gun, I don't think you're my realtor. I said, you know what, sir? I don't think I am either.
Yeah.
I would have shown up in some like rattlesnake skin pumps,
Jaisy.
and he would have been like, no. And I would have driven all that way.
I cannot imagine. I can't even imagine like you standing in a pasture.
With a gun that I can't even carry. I'm like dragging it behind me.
And
Like
Tom,
Elmer Fudd.
Tom would be in the car. He wouldn't even get out.
Yeah.
Well, I have a quick story. So I found this online, and it was talking about funny excuses that people have to call in late. Well, this girl actually shows up to work, and they had a quick lunch. It was like 30 minutes. But she says, I'm going to run home really quick, which they said, it's not probably really not a good idea if it's 30 minutes, but whatever. You just got to be back in 30 minutes. She doesn't show up. Hours go by, and they haven't heard from this girl. And so he calls, and the boss calls and says, hey, we were just worried about you. You didn't show back up. She goes, oh, I went home, and I forgot I was working today. So is it okay if I just stay home? And he was like, you know what? Don't come back, like, ever. Like, it's fine. So, of all the things, just to not remember you were working.
Speaking of funny excuses, I asked my niece just recently, like last week, she's sitting on the counter and there's something like a paper towel right next to her. And I said, hey, can you hand me that paper towel? And she goes, I would, but my hands are in my pockets. And I'm like, what?
Oh, that's good.
What?
I've seen people do that where they're like, oh, my hands are full.
I wish I could use that excuse for things like, I would, but my hands.
But girls have to have more
They're in
pockets
these
for us
pockets.
to do that.
Yeah.
That's another. We need a whole podcast on why girls don't have pockets unless they're clothes.
No, we don't need a podcast on dresses and pockets.
I think that's something that needs to be addressed by the judicial system. I don't mean to talk politics, but we need to talk pockets.
Yes.
Let's level up
Yes.
on that.
Okay.
So I've got a great quote from Albert Einstein. It says, life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. So I think that's so true in life through a lot of things. You just got to keep moving your feet. You just got to keep moving forward, keep pushing forward.
I think that's Misty's tattoo.
Finding a need. That is so true for what Misty's been doing. She just keeps going and going and going. So yes, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all of the work that you've done for the community and for helping competitors, helping all sorts of people. And so thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you so much
for
for having
the
me.
fair, right? Texas
Yes,
Fair?
please.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Texas State Fair, and everything that you do, I love the fact that it's not focused on money, it's focused on serving. And because you focus on serving, that it brings in the money.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely fantastic. Well, guys, I hope you've enjoyed today's show on the
I have.
You have? Well, that's good. On the PB and Jaisy podcast. Like us anywhere that you find popular podcasts. Give us a rating. Let us know about it. Share it. Let's get our viewership up. And this has been the PB and Jaisy podcast. We out.
Bye.
Just had a chat, talk this and that with PB and Jaisy.